All right. Welcome to the Week 7 NFL predictions with your hosts, Lewis and Laraib. We're going to go straight into the predictions for this week. We have a great slate of games coming right at you. And let's get this started, Laraib.
Yeah, so another great or another great slate of games. But let's start off right here with the Lions at 2-3, going against the 1-5 Falcons at the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Little surprising game from the Falcons last week. Looked like everyone was a little bit more rejuvenated after their head coach Dan Quinn was fired. Matt Ryan was the NFC Player of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week. So they're looking like the Falcons. Looks like they're back to being the Falcons, but hopefully they can recreate some more like success against the Lions again this week. Lions had a great win against the Jaguars. We really said it was a must-win game for Matt Patricia after losing some disappointing ones earlier on in the season, and now this is going to be another matchup for him. Going against the 1-5 Falcons, can you get something going again in the Falcons Stadium? DeAndre Swift had a breakout game, rookie, breakout performance for him. And then for the Falcons, Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley both on the field together, and Matt Ryan throws 4 touchdowns. So it's going to come down to, once again, Matt Ryan. Is he going to have another Matty Ice type of performance, or is he going to throw some more duds out there like he has done earlier on in the season?
Yeah, it seemed like Matt Ryan and Julio Jones read all the press clippings about how they needed to be traded. They clearly listened to our podcast and found some motivation because Julio Jones found the end zone twice. Like you said, Matt Ryan was NFC Player of the Week. So it looks like they found some rhythm offensively, granted against a Minnesota Vikings team, which has not been as successful. But, you keep playing those bad defenses. You got the Detroit Lions team. I feel like, Todd Gurley's going to be able to pound the rock against these guys. He had a good season so far, 422 yards on the ground. 5 touchdowns. That's pretty good. That's what you want from Todd Gurley. So, I think the Falcons can get it done in this game. I know the Lions had a good bounce-back win against the Jaguars, but 2 back-to-back on-the-road games is not great for this team. I don't think their defense can hang with the Falcons in this one, but it's just about getting stops. And I think if, the Falcons defense can force some turnovers, I don't think DeAndre Swift is going to have a game like he did against the Jaguars. This Falcons team has been sneaky good against the run. Grady Jarrett in the middle, and you have Deion Jones, lurking, stopping plays. So I think they're going to have a big impact on this game. I like the Falcons in this game. It's going to be close early, but I think the Falcons are going to do enough late to put it away. As strange as that sounds, the Falcons doing something late. But give me a score of 31-23. Falcons win this one handily.
Yeah, I definitely think the Falcons win this game pretty easily, especially with some questions to Desmond Trufant, Marvin Jones, Danny Amendola, and Trey Flowers. So I think with all those question marks on the board for Detroit, I think the Falcons can go and win this game and become 2-5. So I think the Falcons win 27-20.
All right, moving on. We have the Browns in-state battle. Browns traveling to Cincinnati. These teams have played before in the first matchup, going to the Cleveland Browns. Final score 35-30. In this game, the Browns are 4-2 after suffering a massive loss against the Steelers last week, and the Bengals choking a lead against the Colts. So both teams coming off a loss. Browns 4-2, Bengals 1-4-1. Cleveland favored by 3. I'll get this one started. Looking at the Browns side of the ball, they need to find a way to bounce back. Baker Mayfield is not 100% and doesn't seem like he's going to be 100% entering this game. Thankfully, he's not facing a defense like the Steelers. Instead, he's facing a Bengals defense, which, held their own against the Colts for the most part. But in the second half, Phillip Rivers looked like the Phillip Rivers of old and really torched this defense. And you just can't let that happen, regardless of the talent that you have or not. So I look for Baker Mayfield in this rushing attack to get back on track. They're going to get an early lead, pound the ball. And if the Bengals can't stop that, and if they can't get an early lead like they did last time, it's going to be really hard for them to stick in this game. But I will say look for Burrow to make explosive plays on the outside. It seems like him and T. Higgins, the reconnection there has been really strong, and Tyler Boyd has been their leading receiver all season. So he's starting to build much more of a rapport with these guys. But it's just about, protecting the quarterback. And Myles Garrett coming into town with Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ogunjobi, and these just prominent defensive pass rushers for the Bengals are going to cause enough problems for Joe Burrow that they're just going to, be halted at the worst possible times in this game. So I think Cleveland sweeps the season series against the Bengals. I'm going to go with a final score of Browns 34, Bengals 24.
Yeah, I predict this game is going to be just a little bit more closer than that. The Bengals, we know how bad their offensive line has played so far this season, but they held their own against the Colts last week, and maybe they can, do it again this week against Myles Garrett and Larry Ogunjobi, like you were saying. And it is a divisional game. We've seen a couple divisional games so far this season be pretty close. Last week we saw the Texans and the Titans. That one came down to OT thriller. So another one, and also this game came down to a pretty, field goal game last time. So once again, I'm going to say it's a pretty close one, but the Browns, I believe they pull it out just because of how much more I can trust in their offense with the running game than I can Joe Burrow. But Joe Burrow, him and T. Higgins, like you're saying, finally finding that connection and looking like Joe Burrow, he could be sneaking back into that Rookie of the Year, debate. But I think the Browns win this one. It's going to be pretty tight, but I say Browns 30, Bengals 24.
I will say this real quick. No one really talks about this, but when we say when it gets deeper into the season, running backs are the running game and defenses are the units that really start to improve overall. One thing that doesn't get nearly looked at as much as offensive lines get a lot better as the season goes on. Every single team that's the case because they build more rapport, especially when you have a bunch of new offensive linemen trying to get used to each other. They build mystery throughout the season. Defensive linemen are starting to get more injured. They're starting to get more tired. That's definitely the most tiring position on the field outside of cornerback is defensive linemen. So they're not going to be as aggressive. So I think the Bengals, they still don't have that much talent up front. However, it's going to get a little easier for them based off trends we've seen in the NFL before. But let's move on to a game which features two of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and that is the Steelers traveling to Tennessee. Tennessee is favored by 1 point. Both teams undefeated 5-0 on the season. One quick note about this game before I hand it off to you, Laraib. This game, as we know, was originally scheduled to be Week 3 matchup. However, due to COVID, it was postponed all the way now to Week 7. Laraib, what do we got on this game?
Oh, man. Talk about, game of the week, two heavyweight juggernauts of the AFC battling it out at the 12 o'clock schedule. I think whoever wins this game or whoever does win this game is going to be at the top of the AFC going forward for next week. But, starting off with the Steelers, they might be getting back give me 1 second. They might be getting back an offensive lineman in David DeCastro this week, so that's going to be key for them, especially going against a Titans pass rush, which has not been that good so far. And then once again, Chase Claypool, another great week for him last week, rushing touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's kind of slowed down this season. I thought, he had a great game week 1, but ever since then, he's been slowly declining. But they're getting back Deontay Johnson this week, along with Chase Claypool. I don't know how this Titans defense, who gave up, almost 30 points last week, Deshaun Watson, could keep up with the Steelers offense, who, all the playmakers I just listed, along with a great running game in Benny Snell Jr. and James Conner. And then on the defensive side, their Steelers defense is, back to their steel curtain days, looking like, they're going to be another great defense once again this year with Mike Tomlin at the helm. Minkah Fitzpatrick, he had a, interception return for a touchdown last week. But I'll let you go on over to the other side and talk about your favorite team in the AFC, the Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, real quick note for the Steelers, which is really unfortunate for them. Linebacker Devin Bush out for the year with an ACL injury, which, a lot of people and scouts in the AFC, they think he was the best player on that defense. TJ Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward. Well, a lot of players saw him, and Pro Football Focus noted him as the highest-graded defensive player for the Steelers this season. So that's a huge loss, especially in this game where you have the Tennessee Titans at home, and the story of this team is Derrick Henry. And the biggest surprise from this offense is that he's emerging this early into the season, because usually for Derrick Henry, it takes him some time to get the wheels turning and to just get that F-250 truck really getting ready to mow down defenses. Big note, Taylor Lewan also tore his ACL, unfortunately, left tackle for the Titans, all-pro type of guy. So losing him is going to be huge. So they're going to need to make up some slack on the offensive line. in that case, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue with Derrick Henry in the backfield. And, everyone's loved what they've seen from Ryan Tannehill this year. Low-key dark horse candidate for MVP. It's really a one-horse race right now, but if something happens, he's the guy. He's played extremely well this season. And as much as you want to say this is a run-heavy offense, the splits are more pass than run. So Ryan Tannehill is finding his guys. Jonnu Smith has been huge in the passing game. A.J. Brown's emergence back on the field has been huge for the perimeter. Corey Davis is returning this week, so that's going to be big for them as well. So it looks like all their weapons are getting ready to go this week. And for the defensive, what scares me is the lack of pressure, like you mentioned. Yes, that is a problem, but they've been good against the run so far this season. The Texans did not run the ball too well, but in the back end is where they struggle most of the time. Their secondary isn't great. They're way too aggressive. They try to go for all the big plays. And I think that's where Ben Roethlisberger can hurt them in this one if they try to get too greedy and let Big Ben pick them off. But if Big Ben tries to get too greedy, then, these aggressive corners and safeties can make him pay. And turnover is going to be a big thing in this game because Ryan Tannehill does a great job of keeping the ball. But Pittsburgh, before the last 2 weeks, they had a turnover in every single game for the last 2 seasons. So if they start turning the ball over in this game, it could cause trouble for them. So saying all of this, I think Big Ben will turn the ball over at least once in this game. I think Ryan Tannehill gets this team going. Derrick Henry, puts the team on his back, has a few big runs. And I think it's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be lower scoring than people expect. But I'm going to go Tennessee 24, Pittsburgh 23 in an absolute game of the year candidate.
You have to disagree with you. I think the Steelers pull this one out. I just have a lot more trust in Big Ben. And that defense, if they can stack the box and stop Derrick Henry and, force Ryan Tannehill, he's been great so far this season, doesn't commit too many turnovers. But if they can force him to throw the ball rather than Derrick Henry running it and shoving the ball down their throats like they did against the Texans last week, the Steelers have a very good chance of winning this game. So that being said, I just believe the Steelers with a lot more playmakers, they can dominate this game. But it's going to be a tight one, and they're visiting to Tennessee. So I got the Steelers in this one, 24-21.
Hold on, I got to ask you real quick. What makes you trust Big Ben over Ryan Tannehill? What this season gives you that inclination?
Let me just list a couple of playmakers for you. Juju Smith-Schuster, Deontay Johnson, candidate for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Chase Claypool.
Okay, that's
James
great.
James Conner.
Just the receivers? Because, Tennessee has good receivers as well. Like, is that it? It's just the receivers that make you trust him?
James Conner, Benny Snell, David DeCastro, Pouncey, all the players they have on the offensive line. And then you flip it over to their defense. Their defense is what I like most about their team. With, the secondary could be lacking a little bit, but then their front seven is one of the most dominant in the league. And if they can stop Derrick Henry and, put it all on Ryan Tannehill, can he take the pressure?
Okay, I'm just asking about Big Ben.
I'm just asking, can Ryan Tannehill, can he perform, without, doing a play action pass to Derrick Henry, pulling all the linebackers into the box and just throwing it behind them? Can he throw it when there's a, zone defense all around him and everyone's in coverage?
I think so. I think that's going to be –
we're going to have to find out.
We'll have to find out. You're right. It's going to be a great game. But let's go on to the Carolina Panthers traveling to the New Orleans Saints. Saints favored by 7 in this game. We saw the Panthers last week host the Chicago Bears in a game where the Bears offense had barely over 200 yards of total offense, yet won that game pretty convincingly, which really gave me some pause for this Carolina offense that, really it's pretty inconsistent. Teddy Bridgewater had 2 pretty bad turnovers that gave the Bears short fields in this game. And you simply cannot do this with the Saints offense that's so surgical. Getting back their offensive player of the year in Michael Thomas, you can't make those mistakes for this team that's just going to carve you apart. Does not make many turnovers. I know we've seen a few bad picks from Drew Brees this year, but he's only thrown 3 on the season. So, he's historically known for taking care of the ball in situations like this. Saints return home, and I just don't trust the Panthers offense to convert those third and longs, to get off the field in certain situations, or to continue drives in critical situations. And because of that, I like the Saints at home, and a pretty convincing win for the Saints off a bye week in October. You're getting a lot of your guys back healthy. Marshawn Lattimore is going to be healthy in this game, along with the return of Janoris Jenkins in the secondary as well. So a lot of things are turning well for the Saints and the Panthers in this sense. They're a nice young emerging team, but Mike Davis is questionable. Some guys in the backfield. Dante Jackson's been dealing with a toe injury. Pretty funny interview today, actually, talking about toes, but that's besides the point. Saints look poised to win this game.
I have to disagree with you. You talk about the Panthers struggling last week, but they're going against the Chicago Bears defense, which is a staple of that team. The Bears go as far as that defense can carry them, but they have a lighter load this week against the Saints defense, which we've seen has been exposed. Justin Herbert came into the Dome last week. We saw what Derrick Carr did. We saw what, not really what Matt Stafford did. He couldn't really get anything going after, his 2 early touchdowns. But besides the point, Panthers with Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore, and then Mike Davis, I believe he will play. So, the Panthers offense is going to be back at full strength except for Christian McCaffrey, but he'll be back soon enough. But I think the Panthers, they win this game. Teddy Two Gloves, he gets his revenge on the Saints. Michael Thomas is questionable for this game with a hamstring injury. So I think if he doesn't play, the Panthers have a good shot of winning this game. So, the Panthers will be my upset for the week, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I think the Panthers win this game, even though they're traveling to the Dome, which we know is extremely loud, but it's going to be pretty easy for them with no crowd this year. So I got the Panthers in this one. Oh, man. 27-25.
Interesting. I think that's scoregami if we look back at it. But I'll say this. Saints, I think they're having a statement win here. It's really time for them to put the stamp on the ground. They know Teddy Two Gloves. Teddy Two Gloves knows them, so it's about who can get the better of the other. I'm always rooting for Teddy Bridgewater, but not in this game. But I think the Saints come out dominant in this one, and they win the game 31-17 and get out of here with a big W for this ball club. So let's move on to our next matchup of the week. It's not loading for me. Do you have it up?
Yeah, so we got America's Game of the Week here on CBS. The 4-2 Bills will go to MetLife Stadium to play the 0-6 Jets. Somehow Adam Gase still has a job as an NFL head coach. I don't know. I mean, I could take over as the Jets and maybe we could do a little bit something better. But this is going to be a statement comeback, win for the Bills. They lost their last 2 disappointing losses to the Chiefs and who else did they lose to?
The Titans.
And the Titans, yeah. Disappointing losses to those teams. Well, this is going to be a get-right game for Josh Allen. Jets secondary, he can have a little bit more trust in his arm once again after those costly picks he had against the Titans and the miscues he had against the Chiefs and in the rainy weather. But you're playing against the Jets, nothing too much to worry about. This is a get-right game for them on offensive and defense.
Yeah, there's not much to talk about. You're right. Buffalo favored by 12.5 in this game. And the Jets, which in every single game this season have been double-digit underdogs, and they are 0-6 against the spread, which is just horrible. That means they're losing every single game by at least 15 points. I mean, there's not much to say about this team. Is Darnold playing in this one? Do you know?
Let me do a quick search on that.
While you look that up, I mean, the Buffalo, after 2 back-to-back losses, they need a get-back game. They're getting some pieces back defensively, which are going to help them out. And they frankly know Sean McDermott's a very good coach. He knows that this game they can't rest on their laurels. And, this is a great chance for them to bounce back and get right back into that top of the AFC picture. So he's going to get them pissed off, ready to play. And they're going to come out with a vengeance. And I think they're going to win this one big. I'm going 34-3 in this game.
Oh, come on. I believe Sam Darnold will be playing. He was limited on practice today.
Okay, 34-10.
Yeah, so he was limited for practice on Thursday, but he's trending in the right direction per Roto World. So I believe the Bills easily win this game, like you were saying. But I think that Bills, they score 30 and the Jets score 14.
Ooh, big scoring game. Okay. Okay. Good job, Jets. But yeah, that's all we have on that one. We will all be watching that game. So now we have the Dallas Cowboys traveling to Washington to face the Washington football team. We just watched another NFC East game that just concluded in which the Eagles won. So there's a little more pressure on the Cowboys to get this game. So they want to keep their NFC East crown as the Eagles now hold the temporary throne. But in this game, Dallas is favored by 1 point. Really disappointing showing from the Cowboys on Monday night. You lose Dak Prescott. Andy Dalton's the starter for the first game of the season, for the first game of his season, I should say. And he just comes out flat, not pushing the ball whatsoever, really. You know, Ezekiel Elliott, look, it just seems like he needs to see a sports psychologist or something because this fumbling problem is huge. He's never been he didn't fumble at all in Ohio State, and he's never been a big fumbler in the NFL. And this season now, he's just a turnover machine. The only player who's fumbled more than him is Daniel Jones, and that's not, we expect that from Daniel Jones. We don't expect this of Ezekiel Elliott. Big thing to note in this game, Brandon Knight, offensive tackle for the Cowboys, is going to be out, which just eliminates more and more of that offensive line depth. They're already going to be missing Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins. Zach Martin is also questionable for this game. Basically, every offensive line who's been good for the Cowboys is out in this game. It's going to be really tough for them to block against this, Washington defense where Chase Young is back. Ryan Kerrigan has had a few good games this season. And then the Alabama twins on the inside, Jonathan Allen, they're just going to be coming down at you. And I think this is the game that Washington football team gets back on track. Their offense has not been that great this season, but against this Cowboys defense, I think they can get some positive plays, some big runs down the field. But the problem with them all season is they're not getting a lot of big plays. But if you can get Terry McLaurin in space, let him work, try to get a big play with that, you can be successful in this game.
Yeah, Washington, like you're saying, they're going to have a field day out there with – who's going to be missing for them? Their whole offense. I'm pretty sure their whole offensive line is like a brand new unit out there. They're battling injuries just like the Eagles are. So I think the Washington football team the Cowboys last week, you saw Kenyon Drake run all over them. So if the football team can have some more success this week with Peyton Barber and rookie Antonio Gibson, and they just pound the ball and then set up the play action to Terry McLaurin and Dontrell Inman and everyone else, then I believe the Washington football teams can win this game pretty easily. Surprising note, the football team ranks sixth best in, yards per game total this season. So Andy Dalton could have his hands full this week. So I think the Washington football team wins this game, even though I'm hoping Zeke can have a big game for my fantasy team, but I pick Washington to win this game. It's going to be a tight one, but I'm going Washington 27-20.
Yeah, one thing to note in this game as well is the Dallas Cowboys have lost the most turnovers this season by far. And like you said, this Cowboys or this football team defense has been good enough to limit yards. So the Cowboys are going to be looking for big plays down the field, which is going to lead to a lot of opportunities for sacks, sack fumbles, and interceptions down the field, which is going to play right into this football team's hands, giving them short fields, giving them a lot of easier room to work with on this offensive side. So, yeah, we both like the football team in this one. I'm going football team 17, Cowboys 10 in a low-scoring affair.
Also, if the football team wins this game, I believe they will be number one in the division. So
no, because the Eagles have a tie.
But they beat the Eagles.
But the Eagles have a tie. They have one less loss.
Oh, yes,
the tie counts as like a half.
So so technically they would have a better win percentage. Yeah.
Think about it, like the Eagles would have 2.5 wins, and the football team would have 2.
Yeah, I guess so. But my Eagles would be better than your Dallas Cowboys. So moving on to our next game of the week, The Green Bay Packers, coming off a disappointing loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, go against the 1-5 Texans, who had a surprisingly, great second half against the Titans and almost won that game, barring a questionable go for two by their head coach Romeo Crennel. But let's get into this one. This is going to be another get-right game. We're talking about a get-right game for the Bills. This is one for the Packers right here. The Texans defense, we've seen them. We saw what Derrick Henry did, over 200 rushing yards, and I'm expecting Aaron Jones to have another one of those performances like Derrick Henry did.
Aaron Jones has a performance like that.
Well, hoping for my fantasy team and for the playoff hopes for this Packers team, but mostly for my fantasy team. But, Packers, Devontae Adams came back from an injury last week, and he didn't look as sharp. But this week, another week of rest for him, another week of practice. So hopefully he'll be going against this Texans defense. They gave up, a lot of yards to A.J. Brown and Adam Humphries last week. So expect more of the same. And then on the other side, Deshaun Watson and David Johnson, if they can get the run game going like Ronald Jones did last week, and then set it up to Randall Cobb, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks, surprisingly, last 2 weeks, he's had 2 touchdowns and over 250 receiving yards. So if he can go off against this Packers defense, it's going to be a handful for him to go against Jair Alexander, top 5 corner in the league, along with Darnell Savage. So it's going to come down to, can the Packers get something going on offense, especially against this beat-up Texans team? And then can Deshaun Watson, show more of his greatness once again against, a bad matchup for him on the other side of the ball?
Yeah, I'm looking at this Packers defense, which they're not a defense that's good from playing from behind, because when they have to constantly defend against the run, they are not that solid of a unit. They looked soft against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It seemed like Ronald Jones and the offensive line of the Buccaneers, which isn't solid, were really moving that Packers defensive line back and giving them a lot of push, which is really troublesome if you're the Packers and that defensive unit with Mike Pettin as the defensive coordinator. But most of the time, they're blessed enough to have Aaron Rodgers on the other side of the ball, giving them leads, allowing them to play to their strengths, playing with a lead, getting to the quarterback, forcing turnovers. But that all predicates on the Packers getting a lead in this game, which I think they will, and they'll create those opportunities for the sacks and interceptions down the field. But I think the Texans are going to have a better game running the ball. Look for Will Fuller to get out on the outside with Jair Alexander, playing man-to-man on either him or Brandon Cooks. But we saw Jair Alexander have a few pretty questionable plays against the Buccaneers last week. But, that's what Tom Brady will do to you. Deshaun Watson needs another virtuoso performance like he had against the Titans last week if they want a chance in this game. But like you said, I don't think the Texans defense holds up. Aaron Rodgers is just too methodical. This is a get-back game for him. No more 3 humps in the end zone, Aaron. This is all business. Get back on track. Get your team back on track. And you'll win this game pretty convincingly. But I think it's going to be tighter than people would assume. But per the Texans 2020 season, they're going to come up short in the end. Give me Packers 31-28. Barely get out of there alive.
Yeah, I'm thinking to go with the Texans in this game because Aaron Rodgers a little bit humbled after his experience last week, and maybe he's like, this is a get-back game for me. I want to show everyone I'm still going to be in the MVP race, and he's going to try to force the ball a little bit deep. Despite how bad the Texans defense is playing, they have some playmakers back there with Bradley Roby and Justin Reed. So you know what? Give me my Houston Texans in this game. I believe they can. I believe they can win this. They can pull this one out. Deshaun Watson, we saw greatness last week. 4 touchdown performance for him. Time after time, he's able to pull this team out of slumps. So I believe he does it here once again. If it wasn't for that questionable play call, going for 2, I think they win that game. Pretty sweet, pretty nice win for them last week. But I believe they get an overzealous Packers team, which thinks, oh, we can do whatever we want with this Texans defense. J.J. Watt, he's going to have a big game, especially with those Green Bay offensive linemen out. So give me the Texans in this one. It's going to be a close one, but hopefully they can have a little bit better coaching in this one. So give me Texans 27-24. Kylie Fairbairn kicks a late field goal after a great Deshaun Watson late, game-winning drive.
Look, I like the points you brought up, but if the Texans have any shot in winning this game, they need to win in a shootout because there's no way this Texans defense can hold Aaron Rodgers to under 30 points unless Aaron Rodgers has some bad turnovers. So you make good
Which he
points there.
did last week.
You're right, but the Buccaneers have one of the best defense in the NFL, while the Texans just gave
They
up
got
200
playmakers
yards.
out there. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Hey,
I'm going with
we'll
my
see what
heart on this pick.
happens. Your
Texans, don't let
Houston,
me down.
your Houston Texans, man. All right, let's move on to our – so that concludes the 12 o'clock slate. We're going to move on to our 3 o'clock slate, which surprising entry into the 3 o'clock slate. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveling to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. This game was originally scheduled to be a Sunday night game. However, due to COVID and a lot of things like that, the more manageable time slate, because they didn't want it in the Sunday night slate in case the game was scheduled to be postponed. So they moved it to the 3 o'clock slate. There is no current line out on the game because there is still a chance it could get postponed, barring any future positive tests for the Raiders. But as of now, the game is still scheduled to play, so we're going to predict it. This game is very hard to predict because there's no line for the game and there's no line for the Oakland Raiders. Their entire offensive line is out. How can you pick the Raiders? The biggest strength of this team is their offensive line. They're just massive, making holes for Josh Jacobs, giving Derrick Carr time in the pocket to make good decisions. And that was the biggest matchup for me in this game, was the front seven of the Buccaneers against this really good Raiders offensive line that did a great job against Kansas City 2 weeks ago. But now there's no offensive line. I mean, the Buccaneers should have no problem causing problems for Derek Carr all game. So seeing that, it's like, what the heck? I mean, how can you pick this game? Buccaneers by 20. That's all I'm going to say. I don't want to spend time on it.
Oh, God. Well, I think if this game is going to be played, hopefully the Raiders line does play. But I think the key thing to this game is going to be for the Buccaneers front seven. If you stop the run, and put it all on Derek Carr, because what did the Raiders do against the Chiefs? They ran the ball and then gave time for Derek Carr to light it up deep to Henry Ruggs and Zay Jones. Just give it to them deep on deep balls after you set up the play action. Aguilar. And what do they do against the Saints? They ran the ball, allow for these deep routes to be set up by play action to Darren Waller on the underneath routes and all that stuff. So whenever they win, it all comes from, running the game with a great offensive line and then Derek Carr giving him time to make, give him a nice clean pocket and make some great decisions. But this week he's going to have his hands full. He's going to have people in his face, hands everywhere, all up in his face with, offensive line on their heels. So give me the Buccaneers in this one just because of how great their front seven is going to play. And then allowing their secondary to get some turnovers on Derek Carr is going to be pressured all day. So I think the Buccaneers win this one 30-24.
Yeah, I mean, this is a perfect matchup if you just look at the individual matchups for the Buccaneers, at least offensively, where the pass rush for this Raiders has probably been the weakest unit of their team so far. They did a decent job against the Chiefs, enough to make Patrick Mahomes make some indecisive plays, but Tom Brady knows exactly where he wants to go. He has such a fast release. He knows all the defenses from all the experience that he's had as a quarterback. So if you can't get to him within 2 seconds, he's going to just clip you apart all game. Chris Godwin coming back for his second game off injury. He's going to be back and looking more healthy. Mike Evans still coming off injury as well. But, Gronk had his best game of the season last week, which is just – that's going to be proving if they can get that connection like they did in New England, that's going to be hell for NFL defenses going forward. And the strength of this Raiders defense is probably their safeties and interior. But Tom Brady is just so smart. He's going to put you in bad positions. If you play man, he's going to use Gronk over the middle. He's going to hit the seams. He's going to get Godwin and Evans on out routes. But if you're playing zone, it's Tom Brady. And it's just, you have to get to the quarterback if you're going to play a zone on Tom Brady. So I'm not loving the matchups offensively. So I like the Buccaneers in this game. And if, that front seven can get to Derek Carr and just cause hell for him, I don't see how they score over 10 points, frankly. Give me Tampa in this game. I'm going to go 23-8. No, not 8, 7, excuse me. 23-7 in this ball game.
All right, so let's move on to another game in the 3 o'clock slate. We have the 5-1 Kansas City Chiefs going to play against the Denver Broncos, who are 2-3. Surprising victory for them last week against the New England Patriots. But the Kansas City Chiefs are, minus 9.5 in this game. But a quick thing to note is it's going to be 21 degrees and it will be snowing in this one. So if you're going to be attending this game, make sure to bring your jackets.
And a mask.
Oh, yeah, don't forget your mask. But let's start off on the Kansas City Chiefs side of the ball. You know, they had the terrible loss to the Raiders 2 weeks ago, but they came back against the Bills, like we said. It was a get-right game for them, and guess what? They got right. They ran the ball with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and then they're going to be getting Le'Veon Bell this week, so just another bell cow for them. And then they didn't have the deep throws, but they had the nice, short, underneath routes, and that's exactly what we're going to have to do once again against a stout Broncos defense, which held the Patriots to only 12 points last week. And once again, you're playing in the snow, so it's going to be cold outside. No one wants to tackle, 200-pound running back in the freezing cold. So look for the Chiefs to just pound it once again and then hit their wide receivers on short throws because, you don't want to be throwing in the snow, and it's going to be a little windy, I believe. So once again, look for the Chiefs to do exactly what they did against the Bills last week.
Yeah, and as for the Broncos side of the ball, Drew Lock made a bunch of really impressive throws against the Patriots, but also made some really bad throws. 2 interceptions in that game. Had a lot of incompletions, which was just uncharacteristic because he's been a pretty accurate quarterback for his short tenure in Denver. But I will say, you scored 18 points on 6 field goals. And Vic Fangio said it best himself in a post-game interview after the game. If you want to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, you need to score touchdowns, not field goals. And with this unit and this climate, anything can happen when you're playing in Denver and this cold. It always is going to favor the Broncos, but it hurts when you don't have that, Denver faithful behind you, Broncos County cheering you on. And I'm nervous in this game. Melvin Gordon, he had an illness last week, so who knows if he's going to be playing in this game. So look for Phillip Lindsay to get some touches offensively, but he hasn't looked that sharp this season either. It's a tough matchup defensively for the Chiefs because they're going to be extended a lot on the perimeter, moving around. They didn't play – they played a lot better against the Bills, but they still need to sharpen some things up in the red zone and stuff like that. But I think they get it done. I think they bend, don't break, limit those big throws from Drew Lock. And Patrick Mahomes, he's going to score touchdowns. Drew Lock, can you? I don't think so. I think Patrick Mahomes gets right back on the board. The Chiefs establish the running game. And I think in this game, bold prediction, they're going to run more than they throw in this game. They did it last week against the Bills, and they're going to do it this week again against the Broncos in the cold. They're going to win this one convincingly, 24-14.
Well, quick thing to note, Chiefs defense is ranked 27 worst in DVOA against a run. So if the Broncos can get something going with Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon, maybe they can stay in this game a little bit longer than expected. But I just have a lot more trust in that Chiefs offense than I do in the Broncos. So even the Chiefs in this one, I think it's going to be a little bit low scoring with the snow and a lot of running, milking the clock. So give me the Chiefs in this one, 24-14.
Hey, that's a good score. It's almost like what I said. Regardless, great minds think alike. Let's move on to another game featuring 2 teams that know each other pretty well. We have the 49ers traveling to New England. Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback for the 49ers, former quarterback for the Patriots in this game. 49ers, or New England in this game is favored by 2. Great weather in Foxborough. That's what Boston fans call football weather up there in Massachusetts. I just botched that New England accent. But things to note in this game, 49ers come out with a convincing win against the Rams on Sunday Night Football. And in this game, they're traveling to Foxborough, which has been a house of horrors the past 20 years for every single NFL team. And here comes Jimmy Garoppolo returning to New England to face his former team. Do they have the strategy to stop him in this running game? Raheem Mostert, is he going to play in this game? No, he's out. He is out for this game. So look for Jerick McKinnon to get majority of the snaps. But I think this New England defense at home, they're destined to have a bounce back. They played well enough to beat the Patriots, but I mean their offense just could not get it clicking. I think their offense gets it done in this matchup. Look for Cam Newton to have a bounce back in this game. They're going to establish the run, get Michelle going, get N'Keal Harry going on the perimeter. Julian Edelman was a bit nicked up in the last game, but I really like this team to get it back on track. The 49ers had a good defensive performance against the Rams, but I think Josh McDaniels and this offense are going to get really creative. They're going to get Cam Newton in space, and they're going to attack the perimeter of this 49ers defense where they are most susceptible. So I like the Patriots in this matchup.
Yeah, I have to disagree with you. I'm going to have to go with the 49ers in this one. Last week they got a little bit lucky with Jared Goff, missing some, he had some bad throws to some open receivers, and then Cooper Kupp dropped that touchdown. But this week they don't have to face Cooper Kupp. They don't have to face Robert Woods. They don't have to face Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers. They have to face N'Keal Harry and Damian Byrd.
Rex Burkhead.
Yeah, Rex Burkhead and Damian Harris. So a little bit easier task for this 49ers defense. But then on the offensive side, they have their hands full with this Patriots defense, which held the Broncos only 18 points last week. But I believe Kyle Shanahan, he can get it done. Jimmy Garoppolo, is going to be a statement win for him, especially after the Patriots traded him away. A little bit of a revenge game for him. So I think the 49ers can pull this one out in a tight one at Foxborough. Not a lot of scoring in this one, but I believe the 49ers pull it out. Give me 49ers 17-14.
I got to disagree with you. I think Cam Newton finds his rhythm back offensively, and this New England secondary does enough to limit all the down-the-field shots, and they do enough with no Raheem Mostert to really control the running game. And you saw the 49ers struggle the most without Raheem Mostert on the field. Jerick McKinnon is simply not that three-down running back that you can rely on. They brought Hasty out there from the special teams, and he was getting a lot of the carries once Mostert
he was looking good too.
Debatable if he was looking good. Cam Newton is the best running back on this field for the game. He is the best quarterback on this field for this game, and he is going to be the biggest difference maker in the win for the Patriots at home. Give me 20-14. Pats, get it in Boston, baby.
This is the fall of the Patriots dynasty right here. 49ers are looking to get back on track, especially with all the injuries. They're going to pull this one out. A very crucial game for them to win in that NFC West division.
Hey, quit sleeping on their downfall.
Okay. So moving on to the last game of the 3 o'clock window, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 1-5 going to SoFi Stadium to play the 1-4 Chargers. Spread for this game -7.5 in favors of the Chargers. So let me start us off with my rookie of the year, Justin Herbert. So far he's lost all 4 games that he started, but this is going to be his first win. This is going to be his first win right here for him, going against the Jaguars defense, which we saw the last couple of weeks been exploited by Matt Stafford and Deshaun Watson. So once again, Justin Herbert, he's going to hit Mike Williams and Keenan Allen against his beat-up Jaguars defense. It just isn't as good as it used to be in the last couple of years, and they pull out a very easy win against a Jaguars team that just isn't very good.
Yeah, I agree with you in this one. I mean, the Jags defense has really struggled recently. We saw, they had promise in their first game, but ever since then, apparently they fooled us. We thought they were a better team than they were. Minshew is kind of proving that he is not that guy you want at the head of your franchise. I've praised the promising rookies or young players on this team, Caleb on Chason, DJ Chark, CJ Henderson. They have some good pieces back there, but this is just not their year. It seems like they're starting to realize Minshew's not their guy. And look for the Chargers to get their second win of the season, get Justin Herbert his first win, rookie of the year. Not a single win. That's kind of surprising, but I guess they give it to anybody these days. But yeah, no, I got the Chargers in this game. Speaking of, the Bears, you said they're the worst or second to worst 4-1 team of all. Is this the best 1-4 team of all time? Or does that matter?
I don't think that matters. But what does matter is The Jacksonville defense is fourth worst in the league, giving up over 414 yards per game. So look for Justin Herbert to light it up. And then on the ground, Justin Kelly
Joshua Kelly.
Joshua Kelly and Justin Jackson to both get it going against this Jaguars team, just like DeAndre Swift did last week.
Yeah, so I also have the Chargers in this game. I'm going to go 31-14. Big statement win, and they're going to be ready to make some noise in the AFC West. But best 1-4 team of all time. You heard it here first. Moving on to the Sunday night game.
First, you got to let me tell the people how many points I think the teams are going to score, right? Right? Do I get a turn in this one, or just because
you got it?
I'm a Justin Herbert fan, you're just going to skip over me? So I believe the Chargers will win this game. I don't think they're going to score as many points as you think, but they'll score 28, and the Jaguars will score 14.
28's not going to get him Rookie of the Year, but
okay. Well, if he wins this game, guess what? He'll have as many wins as Joe Burrow. So.
All right, so we have the Seahawks traveling to Arizona to face the Cardinals in the new Sunday night football matchup. As we mentioned, this game was flexed to Sunday night. Another time game for the Seahawks. They just want to see Russ succeed, I guess. So big thing going into this game. Cardinals, we all saw them on Monday night. The last game we really remember, just absolutely dominate the Cowboys. So I think that's why this game is 3.5. But I think the Seahawks are prohibited favorites in this matchup. I don't think Kyler Murray can really get those splash plays on this defense, which as much yards as this defense has given up, it hasn't really given up many huge plays down the field. It needs to get better at getting off the field in third down. And the Arizona is the 17th best team in third down conversion. So middle of the pack, not great, but you'd think they'd be better with DeAndre Hopkins and Kyler Murray on the team. But, this usually is a big trap game for the Seahawks. They're undefeated. They're flying high. Another big Sunday night matchup for Russell Wilson and the gang. So I think the Seahawks win their first game by 2 scores this season. I think, I like the Seahawks in this game. I'm going to go 34-24.
Oh, man. So, we talk about the Seahawks, how bad or how many yards that defense gives up. But according to ESPN, the Seahawks rank 11th in team pass rush win rate. So they can get a little bit of pressure on the quarterback if they start blitzing a little bit. And plus, if they get back Jamal Adams for this game, I believe he is questionable for this game. But if they get him back, we saw what he did week 1 against the Falcons. You bring him in the box, he can get some, hits on the quarterback. So if they can get him back, it'll be nice for them. But I believe, Seahawks, they struggle in these divisional games, and I believe they are going to split this season. But last year we saw they went into Arizona and they beat the Cardinals pretty easily. We saw Jadeveon Clowney have a pick 6, and Russ got some deep balls to Will Dissly and Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. So I think the Seahawks win this game, but it's going to be a close one. If the Seahawks defense can limit Kenyon Drake and how much he can run and force it, try to contain DeAndre Hopkins as much as you can, force Kyler Murray to make some more plays, try to keep him contained in the pocket. I believe that's going to be another big key. Don't let him, scramble out looking like, all those memes that seem like a little baby with a toy in his hand, run around the little field, shaking defenders everywhere. So if they can do that, and then, Russell Wilson just being Russell Wilson. We saw he had a bad interception last week against the Vikings that almost lost him the game. If they get that fourth down conversion, that game's over. But he was able to claw back in that one. But he's going against a Cardinals defense, which we saw they did all right against a struggling Cowboys offense. But this is going to be a game against MVP Russell Wilson. So give me the Seahawks in this one. It's going to be a tight one just because it's divisional, and the Seahawks can just never get it done, against their divisional opponents. But Seattle wins this game on prime time just because Russell Wilson, a primetime player. Seattle 28, Arizona 23.
I honestly, I think there's no way Russ can lose MVP if he stays healthy the rest of the season. He's getting all this exposure. He's going to keep winning these games, and he's going to keep winning them in such close, thrilling fashion that it's going to be like, oh, my gosh, Russell Wilson's amazing. And it's just going to be like no one has a chance.
Let me ask you a question. Are the Seattle Seahawks the most entertaining football team in the NFL right now?
Definitely. I mean, every game is so close, and they I feel like they could blow every team out. with their offensive firepower. You see them score 21 points in 10 minutes in real time against the Vikings, and then let the Vikings go on a freaking 10-point run, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? And then Russell Wilson pulls it out of his, the magic hat and wins the game, and it's so exciting to watch. Entertainment value, yes, but is that going to get you to where you want to go? We'll see. I mean, undefeated entertainment, showtime in Seattle. We're going to call them the Showtime Seahawks. And if they can add one of the most Showtime players of the decade in Antonio Brown, who knows what this offense can look like. So big things coming for Seattle.
Well, we know how great that offense is. I wish they would go out and get someone else on the defensive side of the ball. We saw the great trade that they made for Jamal Adams. The Seahawks have a history of making bad first-round picks, so I don't feel too bad giving up 2 first-rounders for him. But if they can go and get a solid pass rusher or, a solid cornerback to line up with Shaquille Griffin on the outside, I'll feel a lot more comfortable with this team. But that's going to wrap up our games for the Sunday slate of games. Well, let's move on to the final game of the week. The 5-1 Chicago Bears, who I've been sleeping on, going against the 4-2 Los Angeles Rams in SoFi Stadium. Rams in this one -6.5. Lewis, I will let you start off on this game.
The worst 5-1 football team of all time, according to my partner, who's probably thinking that. But all they do is win, baby, and that's what they're going to continue to do on Monday night, traveling to the beautiful SoFi Stadium, if I am correct.
Yeah.
Yep, traveling to SoFi. The Rams favored by 6, which is kind of I don't really get that because the matchups in this game I really think favor the Bears, at least defensively, because this Rams offensive line hasn't looked as good at all as it has since 2018. And the Bears defensive front has looked really formidable in these past few games. They absolutely smothered Teddy Bridgewater in that Panthers running game, which has looked pretty good the past few weeks before they faced the Bears. And we saw what they did against Tampa. So this Bears defense, more time to prepare. I think they come out with a vengeance, really get to Jared Goff in this one. And, we see a rattled Jared Goff is just not that good of an NFL player. He's going to make mistakes. He's not that turnover prone, but I still, he's not that great at converting those long third downs and getting off the field. It seems like in situations where he really has to improvise and do things on his own, he's compromised in that sense. And moving it over to the offensive side, obviously you're going to have your hands full. But, you saw how the 49ers kind of went at Aaron Donald. And that's what I say. He's gotten better in the running game, but he's going to over-pursue. He's going to go straight for the quarterback. You run it behind Aaron Donald. So he's going to lead the way, and you can get big running plays on this team. Now, if there was a team that I thought needed Le'Veon Bell, it was this Bears team because they need playmakers outside of Allen Robinson because they simply are not there without Tariq Cohen. I know the rookie Wilson has been good, or Miller has been good this season for them, but he hasn't been great. Jimmy Graham has had flashes, but he's not the Jimmy Graham of old. So you need playmakers. Do I think this team can go out and trade for a receiver like a Michael Gallup? I think that could be a good move.
Julio Jones?
Julio Jones is a little too big of a fish for the Chicago Bears to fry. But, they need more playmakers. But against the Rams, I feel like Nick Foles is going to do just enough to get this team where they need to go. It's going to be a tight one. I think it's going to come down to the wire. But this Bears team is going to give this offense a short field, let them operate. Cairo Santos is going to knock down those field goals and get this team where it needs to go. Give me the Bears in this game. Upset alert, 24-20.
You know what? We talked about it in our earlier podcast this week. The Rams, and my predictions, I said that they are frauds. Only wins that they have came against, the NFC least. But I just believe on the offensive side of the ball, they're just light years better than what Nick Foles and David Montgomery and anyone else on that offense can do. So give me the Rams in this one. I trust Jared Goff to have a little bit of a comeback game. There's what are they? They're second in the division right now, or No, they're third in the division right now because the Cardinals are also 4-2, but the Cardinals have a better divisional record than the Rams. But if the Rams, they can win this game, it'll be a nice victory for them and Sean McVay. So give me the Rams in this one. I just like the offense a lot more than I do the Bears. Nick Foles, I'm sleeping on the Bears, and I'm going to sleep on them once again. Give me the Rams in this one in a Monday night thriller, 21-17.
The worst 6-1 team of all time is going to come bite you in the ass. Real quick, one impressive rookie from last week's game, Cole Kmet at tight end. He could be a good playmaker in this game, as we saw George Kittle have a massive game against the Rams last week. So if they can get those tight ends going, Graham and Kmet, it could be a good 1-2 punch to get down the field on the Rams. But that concludes the games for Week 7. Before we wrap up this podcast, we're going to give you our locks and upsets of the week. My friend Laraib, you have the first lock, and I think it's a lock who you're going to pick.
Yeah, so my lock of the week definitely has to be the Buffalo Bills against the 0-6 Jets. I mean, who would you not take as a lock against the Jets this year? Oh, my goodness. But the Bills, comeback game for them. No way they lose this one. Give me them as my lock.
You know what? I'm going to get risky here. For my lock, I need to speak it into existence. Give me New Orleans at home. I know it's your upset, but I really like – or you have a few upsets, but, Drew Brees back in the Dome, bring back Michael Thomas, bring back the juice, the sauce, and all the dressing. They are my lock and going to improve the 4-2 and start to become the NFC contenders that I know they can be. And I have my upset. And my upset this week, as I just mentioned, the Chicago Bears, the worst 6-1 team of all time after this week. They're just going to come out and prove all the haters, including my co-host Laraib here, wrong as they continue to be the kings of the North.
I have a couple of upsets this week, but I don't know who to choose between these Panthers and the Texans. But the Texans, I have a tough decision to make here. The closer line is for the Texans. Green Bay only -3.5. But the Panthers, I believe, if Michael Thomas is questionable, if he's out for the game, I'm making a gamble on this one if I pick them. So my upset of Week 7 in the NFL is going to be the Houston Texans upset the Green Bay Packers. Packers lose back-to-back weeks. An overzealous Packers team goes into Houston, going into NRG Stadium, think that they can just move or they can just push around this Texans team. But Deshaun Watson and David Johnson are going to have something to say about that. And they win, and they upset the Green Bay Packers. That will be my lock of the week.
And an overzealous Laraib is going to fall down 3 games in the predictions, and that
that's going to be
combo.
I think if I go down 3-1, or if I go down 3-1, it is most likely
tough. However, we're going to wish the best for y'all. That concludes this podcast. Any closing remarks, Laraib?
Yeah, so if you text me a picture of – Lewis, what are we thinking this week?
If we can get a nice picture of the Bears, any type of bear, any bear reference, Yogi Bear, Grizzly Bear, Bear Grylls, whatever you want, send it to me or Laraib or any of our social medias at Lewis and Laraib Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. Links will be in the will be down below. Besides that, thank you all for staying this long, and peace out.
Have a great rest of your day.